When we talk about political divide, I found that there's 7 precipitating factors for political polarization. And so they're going to be no surprise to anyone. But the first one, economic inequality. As you increase economic inequality, you increase polarity in a country. And so when they look at studies by the Parliamentary Budget Officer, finding that housing affordability is deteriorated, that it's outpacing income growth, that 56% of Canadians are experiencing financial stress due to inflation, and that the carbon tax is a key factor in that inflation. And then they're finding that cultural and social shifts at an increased rate is actually causing polarization. So the fact that like when you get big changes, like all the stuff that's happening with the trans stuff, all the stuff that's happening around climate change, they're forcing it at such a speed that people can't absorb it. And then that's creating polarization. So instead of like easing into political issues, because you have to realize you had like the George Floyd, like racial issues, then you had all the Indigenous graves that were found. And then you had, like I said, the trans stuff that came out, and like more push from the LGBTQ plus community. And then also climate change just like layered on all top of this. That's too many social issues for a country to handle at one time. And they're all going at light speed. Mm-hmm. And so you have to like limit the amount of social unrest so that people don't feel like their traditional values are just being completely eroded and deteriorated in front of them. You have to stretch that out over generations for it to be successful. Because what happens is you have like right now where they're like, oh yeah, these people are white supremacists. It's like, maybe these people are responding to too much social change all at once. And whether you're in one of those groups or not, like I know that your priority is to have your social change happen, but I think it's really kind of working against you when there's so many things happening at the same time. Social media and digitization causing echo chambers. Like it's just kind of an obvious one. When you enter social media and the algorithm rewards you with more things that they know that you'll like, and that just keep that confirmation bias going, because they know they can sell more ads that way. Like they're a business. They're in it to just get you on that, keep you looking at it as long as possible, and just pound you with ads. They don't want you to see a viewpoint that you don't agree with and then turn off your phone. Right. So it's creating that polarization because people are not being exposed to different viewpoints. They're just seeing their own. The decline of trust in institutions, partisan media, which is a big one, globalization and the declining national identity. That one was really cool to look into. And then the political strategies of using polarization as a wedge, which is they actually have data showing that in the past 8 years that's become more and more and more of a political tool. But that globalization and declining national identity and then decline of trust in institutions, I thought was really, really interesting because there's a couple different organizations. Angus Reid did a whole bunch of polls. There's another one called the Endelman Trust Barometer. And so they actually look at like the level of trust that Canadians have in their government, in their universities, in the media, and just trust is falling off a cliff. And they showed that actually 52% of Canadians actually trust the government right now. That's just over half. That's dismal, like abysmal. Like that's just awful. And so the other thing that I thought was interesting was that NGOs, they don't do much better. They only have 58% of the Canadians actually supporting them and trusting in them. But business though, business had 62% of Canadians support business and trust business, which is kind of a little bit of a mind shift for me because I always thought that people would be like, oh, business bad, the government's good, the government's here to help you. Whereas I think that more people these days are actually leaning towards like business is going to business. They're going to do what they're going to do. They're there to make money, and government should be holding them to account with good regulation. And they're not. They're actually passing them money in behind the closed doors. And so I think that's what's happening where they're like, we know businesses. They're sometimes they're the devil, and sometimes they're good actors. It's just whatever. They're there to make money. Whereas the government is supposed to be there to have your back, and they're not. And so that's declining trust. But yeah, all these factors that lead up to political polarization, 7 factors, really, really, really cool. And we have the data to actually show exactly where trust has been eroded and how much. And it lines up surprisingly well with this leader, which is Not good for Mr. Trudeau.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, that was, I mean, I think some things you brought up there too, with like using polarization as a political tool, like that's been his MO since the beginning.
Yeah.
And to see kind of the chaos that's ensued since has not been by accident. So I think those are all very good points.
Yeah. The one I forgot to mention that I thought was really interesting was under that factor of globalization and declining national identity, they bring up the idea of immigration. And so immigration being a big factor. And so under Trudeau's tenure of being prime minister, he's brought in 2.7 million immigrants. That's more than all of the Atlantic Canadians combined. That's like dropping New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, PEI, and Newfoundland's population. More than that, because their population together equals about 2.5 million. So an extra 200,000 on top of that dumped on Canada in 8 years. That's insane. That's nuts.
It's Matt, and people wonder why the infrastructure hasn't kept up.
Yeah.
Amazing how that works. That was electric, wasn't it? Well, we enjoyed it. Hope you did too. If you did, you can check this video out here to the top right corner right near my window. Get over. There it is. There it is right there. And if you liked that, you can also check this one right here. We love you. Have a good one. Peace out.